Hey guys, my name is thatyou and it's time for another Since Saturday, and today I want to show you how you can make aggressive, filthy snares for your drops and buildups. So the type of snare sound we'll be aiming for is this. And it's quite resonant, quite easy to make if you take the right sample from the start. And after we've done that, we're going to take a look at a real life example of what I'm doing in a track with this type of snare. So as I said, the first most important thing is we're going to take the right sample. So we're going to open up some snare. So like I said, the first and most important thing is taking the right snare sample from the start, and just a snare sound where you can already hear that filthy sound in there. Like it's gonna be an easy, just to apply distortion on there, and you're gonna get nice. So the first and most important step is getting that right snare. So we're just gonna scroll through some snares and see which one I like, and I'll tell you why I like them. So after you found your snare sample that you want to be working with, we're going to open up our first EQ. And in this EQ, we're just basically going to look at where the root frequency is of the snare, where it's pitched at. So in this case, it's over here. And now we're going to apply our first distortion. And this distortion can be quite aggressive. So I'm going to use thrash, maybe amp drainer, and I'm going to open up the drive a little bit and just get it nice and distorted. And then we're going to take a look back into our EQ and see if we maybe need to make this bell higher, if we need to change the Q, just see how this snare acts under distortion. And it's just a trick to get the right amount of resonance without getting too much of a dull sound. So if we apply just another one to just simulate that, this is going to sound too dull. And you might like that. It might work in some cases, but if you want to create a nice snare that's balanced and filthy, you just got to pay attention to that you don't resonate it too much and just keep the sound a little bit intact. And if it might happen that you're working with your snare sample and your highs sound too dirty, that happens to me as well sometimes. I'm just going to take a high cut like this or a high shelf, and I'm just dipping these highs a little bit before the distortion, so you get some more room to play with this bell and the distortion itself. So for example, let's take it like this. And let's just raise this up a little bit more and see if this extra distortion can make it even more dirty. I think it can. Maybe we need to raise this a little bit more. So when you got the sound kind of sounding like this, we can apply our second effect on here, and that's just going to be reverb. And this reverb is just going to be quite small, and it's just going to be there to get destroyed again by another distortion. I'm going to take another isotope thrash and just open it up a little more again. And after we've applied that distortion, we're going to take a look back into Valhalla Room and just play around a little bit with the reverb to get a nice sound. And this might just totally be subjective to you. If you don't like reverb on your snares, then you don't need to apply too much of a decay on here. Or maybe you're going to take a little bit of a less pre-delay approach. It's just a matter of playing around and seeing how this reverb changes the stereo part a little bit of your snare and just creates a nice sound. So as you can see, it's just a matter of playing around a little bit until you get a sound that you like. But when you like it, just export it and drag it into your track. So right now we're in this little sketch that I've been creating, and I've been using this filthy snare in here, in the build up as well as in the drop. Just have a little listen and tell me if you like it, of course. I'm personally really happy with the drive that I've created, but using this snare in here was actually quite easy for the build-up at least. What you can do when you want to use a filthy snare in the build-up, you can just automate the pitch, put an automation clip on there, make it rise, and just let it play. Like I'm doing over here, it's quite easy. It's just gonna get a higher pitch and the snare is just gonna get shorter because the pitch is gonna get higher. And if you don't like that sound of your snare getting shorter, you can of course just take a section where it's shorter and make it longer again. So we'll keep having the same length of the sample, but I feel when you're using transient sound, it doesn't really matter too much. 9 out of 10 times it can just work by having the sample getting shorter. So then I've done the same thing over here, and over here I've just been fucking around with this snare and just playing around with it to get something creative. Because, well, if we look at this snare, or the resonance of the normal snare just ends over here. And if I played that normal snare together with the kick, it just sounded sad. It just sounded too clean and not aggressive enough, you know? It sounds nice, but it's not as nice as it sounds with the this version over here. And what I've done is I've just stretched this so it became longer, the resonance became quite longer, and give it its own mixer channel. And over here I've just boosted our little resonance over here, and it's just nothing special, only 3 decibels, or almost 3 decibels. And I've been distorting this some more, so we're gonna get a nice tight sound from it again. And just boosting some highs afterwards to create a nice and balanced sound as well. So if you just only stretching the snare, it sounds like this, and then it's just a little bit too dirty. It just doesn't sound right. So if you just boost this a little bit and distort it some more, it's gonna get a little more tight again. And I just felt it needed some highs. And over here, in all these little gaps that I've been having over here, I'm just putting a snare in there, just to create some extra drive. And over here it's the same thing. And all the way at the end, I'm just even doing something weirder. I'm getting this little kick roll over here. So over here, I just cut up the snare and it sounds like this. And it's weird, but I liked it. And the kick roll, it just really works nicely. So yeah, it's a matter of playing around and just being creative with the sample and putting it in your drops. I will want to finish this off with quite a useful tip, and that is when you want to use a kind of transient snare in your drops, just put the snare a little bit louder because the transient tends to get squashed by the master anyways. So when it's getting squashed by that master, you're gonna have a loud kick and just a little bit too quiet body of a snare. So when you're using a snare in your drops, just put it a little louder, so after the mastering is done, it's gonna have a nice body that's gonna be comparable in volume with the kick. Now I hope you liked this little video and you learned something from this, and hopefully I'll see you back soon again. Cheers!